So welcome everybody to Healing Restorative Yoga. Today we're going to start a little differently. So hopefully you have a wall nearby because we're going to start in legs up the wall. But if you don't have a wall, you could, bring your legs up and over the seat of a couch or something like that. Or you could just have your legs floating in the air with an imaginary wall. I'm going to be doing that to demonstrate because I don't have a wall that I can really use to, demonstrate for you. But you may want to have a blanket underneath your back so you can just, lay it flat on your mat. And then have another one available for the shoulders, going across the shoulders, but letting the head kind of roll off the back of that. It will provide some really nice support for the shoulders, which will take some of the pressure off of the neck area. So to get into it, you're basically going to bring your hip and your shoulder up to the wall. So if I had an imaginary wall right here next to me on my right side, I'm bringing my right hip and my right shoulder to the wall, lining up my side body to the wall. It's going to make it easier to get the legs up the wall. Then bring the hands behind you and kind of slide back a little bit. So you're going to bend those elbows, roll back, and then bring the legs up and swing them around so that now your seat is as close to the wall as possible, maybe even touching the wall with the legs extending upward. You can always, if you have a sandbag or something you'd like to place over the feet to just create a little bit more weight, you're welcome to do that. And then if you want to create more of a neck roll, you can kind of roll up the blanket a little bit that's underneath your head, just allowing the head to kind of roll off the back. You can take your arms out to the sides with the palms facing upward. You can bring the hands to the belly if you like. Or you can even come into cactus arms if you really want to begin to open into those shoulders. So just choose what works best for you. Closing the eyes and beginning to allow the body to settle into this shape. And as you begin to relax, soften the body, soften the face, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders, feeling the back, just feeling grounded, connecting to the earth and the energy of the earth, just letting it rise up to meet you and support you exactly where you are today. Begin to scan your mind, noticing any thoughts that are present without judging, just allowing this to be a practice of observing, noticing, and accepting whatever shows up. Check in with any feelings that are present. Practicing that same kindness, compassion, and acceptance. Now notice on a more subtle level what's happening with your breath. We want to move into a space of restoration and healing. So as you begin to scan the breath, notice how fast or slow your breathing is, how deep or shallow. Take note of where the breath is located. We often breathe in the upper portions of our lungs, on average taking in about a pint of air, but we have the full capacity for a gallon's worth of air in every inhale. So begin to create some space by exhaling completely, letting all that breath go to create room for your next inhale. Allow the belly to expand and inflate the rib cage, the chest, feeling an openness. And as you exhale, just a softening into the belly, a slight contraction as you squeeze all of the breath out of the body. You can breathe in through the nose, and you might choose to breathe out through an open mouth. This helps to reset our breathing. It also helps us to let go of the chemicals associated with fight or flight. But even just the slow, deep, rhythmic breathing takes us out of fight or flight into a relaxation response where the body can come into that space of healing and restoration. So fall deeper and deeper in love with your breath, knowing that at the very bottoms of our lungs, we have these little finger-like nerves. They're called nerve ganglia. And when we breathe into the fullness of our lungs, they get stimulated. The breath tickles them and switches our body into that relaxation response. So maybe you can even visualize the bottoms of your lungs and your breath brushing against these little finger-like nerves to calm you, to help you center, to help you ground, to help you be present, be here now. In the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about how we show up in the midst of this social justice movement, how we can be love, kindness, and compassion to those around us. And so today I want to talk about how we put our compassion into service for others. I want to start by reading to you a blog post from Daily Om by Madison Taylor entitled, "We Are Here to Serve." And she writes this: "We are living in a time of great change. Many thinkers and seers agree that humanity and the planet Earth are evolving at a quickened pace. And this evolution will necessarily be severe and seemingly chaotic at times. It's natural for people to react with fear because these changes will doubtless bring some level of difficulty and loss to many of us. However, it is essential that we all remember that our souls chose to be here at this time and to be part of this process. Every movement in the universe is a movement toward love. This is true even in situations that appear on the surface to be the opposite of loving. Since we chose to be here, we are capable and ready to rise to the challenges in which we find ourselves. It is helpful to reflect on our own lives and make changes necessary to fully support humanity and the planet into a state of love. When we open our hearts in love instead of closing them in fear, we serve the divine process. We are all powerful spirits who took form at this time in order to serve our fellow humans, our planet, and the universe. As we find ways we can serve, our fear dissipates. We may serve by remaining calm and loving with our children and our families, even as the situation seems dark. We may serve by sending money to people who need financial assistance. We may serve by going out into the world and actively helping to rebuild lives. Regardless of what actions we choose to take, the essential element will be the internal gesture of choosing to remain in love. That is all that is needed. When it is difficult to remain in love, we may always call upon our unseen helpers, the teachers and guides who are with us always. All we need to do is ask, and then trust that we are being helped. The guidance we receive is love itself, showing us the way. It isn't enough to just feel love and compassion. Love and compassion calls us into service. And our service to others is love and compassion in action. Keep breathing. One of the best ways that we can uplift ourselves is by uplifting others. And when we feel like we're just going through the motions of life, sometimes these days that we have been in feel like Groundhog's Day. One way to make a shift is by being in service to other people. It changes us on a biochemical level. And it brings light and love into a world that needs it so desperately. Ilia Delio said, compassion is a thread that binds together the deepest centers of life, beyond the borders of race, gender, religion, tribe, or creature. If your legs are against the wall, I want you to begin to bend into the knees, slide your feet down the wall so that your knees are above your chest. If you don't have your legs against a wall, just begin to bring the knees toward the chest. We're just going to stay here. If the legs are our feet are against the wall, press into those feet a little bit so you can feel the low back begin to release. If the legs are not against the wall, bring the hands behind the knees or just below the knees on your shins. And continue to just melt into this knees to chest shape. And you can choose to maybe bring a little bit of movement from side to side here, or you can just stay static with it. Feel that whole low back begin to release. This compression not only helps to release low back pain and release the back body, but it also compresses into the organs of digestion and elimination. It also compresses into our hip capsules to help synovialize those joints or lubricate those joints so that they move with more ease and range of motion. Maybe you're breathing, noticing your belly press into the thighs on the inhale. And then notice the belly deflate and the thighs come a little closer as you exhale. Just let your breath be flowing here, almost like waves on the ocean. Let it be natural and organic, gentle, and supportive. It's interesting because the phrase, it's better to give than receive, is really true. In fact, studies show that our body releases 13 times the happy hormones when we give than when we receive. So those happy hormones can uplift us in times of darkness or times when our soul feels sad, or those times when we go to those places where maybe we even feel hopeless or a sense of despair. Can bring light to ourselves and to those around us. Keep breathing, feeling the hips release, feeling the low back release, taking your breath where you need it most. Allowing your breath to be like little love notes to your body. Take your arms out to the sides like wings. And then we're just going to allow the knees to fall over to the left, bringing them all the way down to the floor. Now we want to keep our left shoulder grounded. So if that means we need to come out of this twist a little bit, you can bring some support underneath the knees, like a block or a bolster to support the knees. You can also place something between the thighs, like a block or a blanket. Keep softening into that right shoulder, maybe even taking your gaze to the right. And now, breathing in through the nose, out an open mouth. Remember, 70% of our toxins leave the body through our respiration, the rest through our skin and digestion. So make your breaths count, let go of what no longer serves you, let go of what might be holding you back from putting yourself out there in service to other people. Martin Luther King Jr. said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? It can be as simple as buying someone coffee behind you, sending a note out to somebody who you know might be having a hard time, or maybe is living alone, dropping off a meal or some sort of assistance to somebody. And it can get bigger from there, just depending on what you feel called to, what you feel led to do. But don't think for a moment that even the smallest of gestures can have the largest of impacts. If you have something between the legs, go ahead and remove it. And then we're going to bring the knees back up, maybe even taking a moment to squeeze, just giving them a nice hug before we make our way to the other side. So begin to release both of your knees over to the right now. Again, you can support from the underside of the legs. You can place something between them. Keeping that left shoulder relaxed on the mat, maybe gazing over to the left. Once again, coming into that letting go breath in through the nose, out an open mouth. Perhaps making an exchange with every breath you take. Allowing the breath to inspire you. Keep breathing. As you settle into this twist, just allow time, breath, and gravity to take you deeper, create space, and to assist with letting go. Slowly begin to roll to your right side. We're just going to press ourselves up because we're going to create our next posture. So you might need to move away from the wall a little bit if you're at the wall. Then pulling yourself back from the wall a little bit, we're going to take our bolster and we're going to put it on an angle using a block or something underneath it just to assist with putting it on an incline. Good. Then you're going to take your blankets and we're going to roll them up to create some support for the thighs. So you can fold them however you would like to, at whatever height you'd like to have them. And then we're going to lower back down. So placing your seat as close to the bolster as possible to make sure, that your low back is supported. Bring the soles of the feet together, taking your blankets rolled up underneath the thighs and then lower back down. Good. And so you can adjust this to whatever height you would like it to be. And just rest the arms out to the sides alongside your hips or out to the sides with the palms facing up, just to create some opening into the shoulders and chest and also into the hips here. Beautiful. Now I'd like you to visualize the breath, maybe give it a color. And as you draw that breath in, direct the breath to where you feel any discomfort at all. So whether it's an area of pain, discomfort, tightness, or even just a space of resistance, direct the breath there. And as you exhale, imagine that you're breathing out that discomfort, that pain, or whatever it is, even if it's just a feeling of kind of congestion, as if you're breathing that right out of your body. But also imagine you're continuing to just open your chest and your heart space. And with the palms outstretched, as if you are reaching your palms out to those who are in need of assistance or support or guidance or comfort. Letting it be an extension of your heart. So Mother Teresa chose to serve the poorest of the poor and to live among them and like them. She saw beauty in every human being. She, along with others of the missionary of charity, strove to make the lives and deaths of those around them more peaceful and full of love. To quote Mother Teresa, she says, "Love is a one-way street. It always moves away from the self in the direction of the other. Love is the ultimate gift of ourselves to others. When we stop giving, we stop loving. And when we stop loving, we stop growing. And unless we grow, we will never attain personal fulfillment. We will never open up to receive the life of God. It is through love that we encounter God." And here I would define God as however you know God to be, whether that's the divine, the universe, source, or God of any other name. This comes from Where There Is Love, There Is God, page 26, if you are wondering. So love calls us into divinity itself. As you breathe, continue to open your heart and open your heart chakra, center and space of love, kindness, compassion, the ability to give and receive love freely and unconditionally. Perhaps here you visualize the color green, or maybe even the color pink. These are the two colors that tend to be associated with the heart chakra. You can always add the breath of ah, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out ah, that sigh that opens the heart. A sweet surrender. Mother Teresa also said, "We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love." If you can't feed 100 people, then just feed one. I think sometimes we look at the needs that are out there and it feels overwhelming. We don't even know where to begin. But it begins with us reaching out to just one person and doing that with great love. Slowly begin to bring the legs up and then toe heel your feet to the edges of the mat. If you Have blocks or blankets under the thighs, go ahead and move them. And then we're just gonna alternate releasing the knee in. So you're gonna drop the right knee toward the floor to the inside of your left leg. So internally spiraling that right thigh. And then inhale to bring the leg back up. Exhale, release the left knee to the inside of the right leg. And then inhale up. We're going to keep doing this a few times. This internal rotation counters the external rotation that we had when we were in butterfly a little bit ago. Just keep breathing here. Beautiful. Come back to center. And then just gently push yourself up. We're going to change our orientation a little bit. So take your bolster or even a block if you don't have a bolster, and it's going to go widthwise on your mat. Good. And then if you need some support for the head, feel free to take a blanket for your head. We're going to lift our seat up onto that bolster or to the block, and then come back down. So we'll have a nice opening in the supported back bend. Again, you can create a little neck roll if you like to support the head. And then bring the feet to the floor so the knees are stacking right over your ankles about a hip width distance apart. Arms can come out to the sides if you like, or you can come into cactus arms as we continue to open into our heart space. And so Madison Taylor, who wrote that initial reading that I shared with you at the beginning of class, she was talking about love and fear. And it's basically been said that we operate from one of those two spaces. We are either acting in love or we are reacting in fear. So one of the places where we carry a lot of fear and the effects of fear are in this is in the psoas muscle and in our hip space. And so the psoas muscle, one of the largest muscles of our body, connects from the top of our thigh bones, wraps through the pelvis, and then connects behind our diaphragm to 4 vertebrae of our spine, connecting the upper and lower halves of our body. But it's hardwired into our fight or flight response in our body. In this area, because of fear and stress and the impacts that it has on the body, that muscle gets very short and tight and hard. It also tends to store up the chemicals associated with fight or flight, but it can result in low back pain, hip pain, tight piriformis. It can also, just the accumulation of the chemicals of fight or flight in the body can have a harmful effect on our health and our immunity, making us more prone to disease and infection. And so we're working with this muscle a little bit right now. We're seating it back toward the spine. It kind of slides like a tongue. So right now we're sliding it back behind the diaphragm just by virtue of gravity and having the hips elevated. And so just take a moment and allow for that time, that space, that muscle to just relax, come offline. We're going to stretch it in a moment, but for now, I'm just going to visualize it like your tongue relaxing back into your throat. As we breathe slowly and deeply, especially when we are doing diaphragmatic breathing, it's communicating with that muscle that all is well. Slow, deep, rhythmic breaths are very, very reassuring to our nervous system and tells that psoas muscle all is well. It can relax. We are safe and sound. We can be available to give and receive love, to be in service to other people, which in turn puts us in service to the highest calling. Now, keeping that left foot on the floor, I want to encourage you to extend the right leg out long if that feels okay for your body. You're going to feel a big stretch into the front side of your right hip and into the psoas muscle. You might feel it all the way into your heart space. The psoas muscle connects right behind our pericardium around our heart. So let your breathing be slow, rhythmic, and deep here. Feel that beautiful stretch. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, and to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well." Continue to breathe in a slow, deep, rhythmic way. Knowing that our muscles stretch best when we're relaxed. Let's begin to switch out our legs. So bend into the right knee, place the right foot on the floor, and then let's extend the left leg out, feeling a stretch into that left hip, all the way in toward the heart space, feeling that stretch. Maybe feeling that stretch all the way out the tips of your toes. In this breath, drawing in love, exhaling out fear and all of its derivatives. Cool thing about being open to being in service is that we just need to be willing. We don't even necessarily need to know what or how or what the outcome might even be. We just have to be willing. And the minute we open our hearts to be willing, opportunities will present themselves right in front of us. Keep breathing, feeling that stretch. Feeling open and spacious. Go ahead and slowly bend into your left knee. Place the foot on the floor. With both feet on the floor, gently lift the hips and move the bolster out from underneath you. Beautiful. We're going to roll to one side and then gently press ourselves up. We're going to make our way onto all fours. So if you need some support for underneath the knees, go ahead and take a blanket. You can place that beneath the knees. And then we're going to take the bolster in front of us. Again, we're going to create a little bit of an incline, but we're going to be facing the bolster. If you'd like to, you can take the knees wide and then slide that bolster a little bit closer to you. And then if you need to bring the bolster up closer to you, you can take a blanket on top of it or stack as much as you need to on top to bring it up higher. And then we're going to slowly just release ourselves down into a supported child's pose. You can turn your head to one side. I'll give you a warning about halfway through, we can switch sides. Just like relax the arms, relax the shoulders, relax your seat. Just allowing the body to soften here. This forward fold is countering the back bend that we were in, that supported back bend. But now we're opening the back side of our heart. The back side of our heart represents past relationships. But what's in the past needs to remain in the past in order for us to really be in full service to ourselves and others. So can you just let that area expand and open and release and let go? And as you do that, just feel a softening in your heart as your heart melts into the bolster and the support underneath you. Pablo Picasso said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." We all have unique talents and gifts. And when we put our gifts in service to others, it makes the world a better place. Feel free to turn your head in the opposite direction and settle back in. Just feeling the rise and fall of your breath. The majority of our lung tissue and our little oxygen receptors exists in the back of our lungs. So breathe fully into the backs of your lungs. We also tend to store grief and sadness in the lungs, so maybe you're breathing in through the nose and out an open mouth, releasing and letting that go. Expanding and filling into your capacity to give and receive love.
Feel each of the little intercostal muscles between your ribs stretch and open. Just creating more space for breath, more space for love, kindness, and compassion. To bring yourself up. Then we're going to come on to all fours. So the knees are going to come directly underneath those hips, hands directly underneath those shoulders, and just begin to kind of tap out the feet. So maybe you're tapping out the tops of the feet, maybe you're tucking the toes, just bringing some circulation back into the lower parts of your legs. Good. And then we're going to just do some cat-cows here. So inhale to lift the tail, press the navel down, slide the heart forward, finding that back bend. And then on the exhale, gently curl the tail under, draw the navel in, round your back, and bring your chin to your chest. Feel that big cat-like stretch here as you press your spine up toward the ceiling. On the inhale, lift the tail and press the front side of your body down toward the floor. Draw the shoulders away from the ears and lift the crown. Exhale, gently tuck the tail, draw the navel in, round your back and chin to your chest. Good, just a few more breaths like this. Beautiful. I'm going to come up, but go ahead and remove the block from the bolster. Slide the bolster forward. We're going to bring our right foot forward. So coming on our left knee, step the right foot forward. I know my right from my left. Good. And then we're just going to begin to kind of settle in here. So you just can kind of slide forward and back. Good. And then allow that right knee to come forward. Make sure it does not come in front of the toes though. And then you can bring your hands to the props underneath you. Now if you want to, you can add some height to this. So you can put a block there as well. And then slowly come down onto your forearms into a supported low lunge. Just allowing your body to settle into the shape. This is becoming a little bit more yin-like, but the closer you bring those props to you, the more support you have. So you want to, work to your own level here. And just take some breaths in this shape. We're not going to stay here super long. I know it's a pretty intense stretch. Just keep allowing the heart to melt here. We're supported. Releasing the jaw, releasing the shoulders away from those ears, settling into the shape. Find a nice, slow, steady rhythm for your breath. Good. Press into those hands, slowly lift yourself up. And then we'll go ahead and slide that leg back, placing the right knee underneath the right hip. And then step your left foot to the outside of that bolster. Good. Again, we're going to kind of rock back and forth, just slowly settling into this. And then once you start to settle in, maybe you release down onto those forearms, settle into the shape. Just make sure your left knee is stacking over your foot, but not in front of the toes. Release your breath, release your jaw. Robert Ingersoll said, "We rise by lifting others." Rise by lifting others. Or as my friend used to say, all boats float higher. So what can we do to lift others and raise the collective vibration? Sending out love and light, being in service, sharing our gifts, sharing our heart, sometimes just holding space and listening. Slowly begin to come back. Good. And then release the knees underneath those hips, hands underneath the shoulders, and we're just going to circle those hips out. Nice and slow. Imagining that you're like scraping out the inside of a jar of your favorite peanut butter, almond butter, Nutella. If you hate nuts, maybe it's ice cream. Go in the other direction. Or my kids' favorite, cookie butter. Don't really care for it myself, but man, they love it. All right. So we're going to set ourselves up for a final rest position, and I'm going to let this be the posture of your choice. But if you're looking for a potential suggestion, perhaps taking a blanket, creating a neck roll for the head, and then taking a bolster for behind the knees, maybe even rolling up a blanket or a towel on top of that to just catch the backs of the knees, and then settling into the shape. But certainly go with whatever is calling to you. Find a nice restful shape, lowering down, maybe continuing to slide the shoulder blades away from those ears to keep the heart nice and open. The arms can be alongside the hips, out to the sides like little angel wings, or maybe up like cactus arms to continue to open into the heart. Close your eyes and settle in, noticing and observing your natural breath. I want to read to you a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. It's interesting, I did a little research on the quote, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." And that particular quote has been historically attributed to Mahatma Gandhi, but it's not exactly what he said. So I'm going to share with you what he actually said. He says, "We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in our outer world are found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him.
This is a divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is, and the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do. This has been reduced to that quote that we have heard so many times in terms of being the change that we wish to see in the world. If we could change ourselves, the world around us will also change. Continue to settle into the silence, letting this be a time of silent reflection. I'm going to close the class for us, but I want you to stay as long as you feel compelled. Letting this be your time to integrate your practice. So for now, it's namaste, my friends, but enjoy the remaining time, staying as long as you like.